Good morning, powerhouse. Before the sun even decides whether to rise, you've already made the most important decision of the day. You show it up. You opened your eyes, drew breath, and gave yourself permission to live this next 24 hours at full volume. That single choice made in the quiet of dawn puts you on a different path than most. It's the path of deliberate action, not accidental existence. The instant your eyelids flutter open, a fragile window of possibility appears, and what you do with those first few minutes silently scripts the narrative of the entire day. Getting up with intention is not just a physical motion. It is a declaration that the hours ahead will be shaped by design rather than drift. Consider the alternative when waking morphs into snoozing, rolling over, or scrolling mindlessly. The message sent to the subconscious is one of hesitation and passivity. Energy leaks out before the real challenges even begin. By contrast, rising promptly, feet on the floor, spine lengthening, lungs filling with a deliberate breath, plants a psychological flag that says, "I am in command." This single decisive act becomes the first domino, nudging the rest to fall in orderly progression. Momentum, once captured, is powerful precisely because it is self-reinforcing. The brain loves consistency. It hunts for patterns to conserve energy. When the morning begins with a purposeful gesture, neural circuitry lights up to search for the next intentional choice. Will breakfast nourish or merely placate? Will conversation uplift or distract? Each small decision that follows is subtly influenced by the first. Like a well-struck tuning fork, the initial vibration resonates through subsequent moments, aligning them to the same frequency of deliberate action. Over time, this pattern trains the nervous system to expect forward movement as the default rather than an exception, making discipline feel less like brute force and more like a natural rhythm. There is also an identity component embedded in that early victory. Every behavior communicates something about personal standards. Rising decisively signals self-respect. The body is worthy of being cared for. The goals are worthy of attention. The day itself is worthy of enthusiasm. Even on mornings when fatigue clings like fog, honoring the commitment to get up promptly reinforces the internal narrative of reliability. It dispels the myth that motivation must always precede action. Often action is the catalyst that summons motivation. Standing up at dawn reveals a character willing to lead feelings instead of waiting to be led by them. Moreover, the first victory acts as an anchor in a world of unpredictability. No matter how chaotic schedules become, meetings rescheduled, traffic snarls, unexpected emails, the reality remains that the morning choice was made consciously, that certainty can be recalled later when obstacles loom large. It becomes evidence. I have already proved today that I can set a course and follow it. This memory counterbalances external turbulence, restoring a sense of agency. Rather than reacting to circumstances, one returns to the proactive stance established upon waking, recalibrating the rest of the day toward purposeful effort. Biologically, intentional rising taps into hormonal cycles that prime performance. Cortisol, often labeled a stress hormone but essential for alertness, peaks naturally in the early hours. Leveraging that surge by moving, hydrating, and breathing deeply converts biochemical readiness into practical momentum. Instead of fighting drowsiness through artificial jolts oversized coffees, gulped down in a rush, one aligns behavior with the body's innate timing. The result is clearer cognition, steadier mood, and a reservoir of energy that lasts longer and crashes less dramatically. There is a quiet pride that accompanies these moments. No audience applauds when the alarm is silenced and the day begins, yet the absence of witnesses is precisely what makes the act powerful. Integrity is what happens when no one is watching. Walking to the kitchen for water, stepping outside to greet cool air, or opening a journal before the household stirs, these are private rituals that strengthen self-trust. Each repetition carves a deeper groove in memory. Promises made to the self are promises kept. That trust is the soil from which larger ambitions grow, because grand projects require dozens, sometimes hundreds, of smaller, unseen commitments along the way. Importantly, claiming the first victory does not demand perfection. There will be days of illness, travel disruptions, or unexpected calls in the night. What matters is the prevailing trend, the default posture toward morning. Forgiveness for occasional setbacks coexists with an overarching resolve to return swiftly to the pattern. Consistency outperforms intensity when it comes to habit formation. Small daily wins compound more reliably than sporadic bursts of extreme effort. Over weeks and months, the benefits amplify beyond personal performance. Colleagues notice a steadier presence in meetings. Friends sense increased attentiveness in conversation. Creative projects receive more sustained focus. All of these external results trace back to that simple, internal choice made within the first minutes of consciousness. The initial act of rising with intention becomes invisible scaffolding supporting visible achievements. Momentum built at dawn carries into the afternoon presentation, the evening workout, the late night brainstorming session. Eventually, others may attribute success to talent, luck, or resources, unaware that the true foundation was laid long before they arrived. To claim the first victory is, therefore, both profound and profoundly accessible. No special equipment, wealth, or permission is required. Only the willingness to honor the moment between sleep and wakefulness as sacred and formative. Each dawn offers a fresh ballot on who will govern the hours ahead, habit or intention. By casting a decisive vote, the instant the day begins, momentum is seized. Identity is affirmed, and a quiet but undeniable power is set in motion that echoes through every subsequent choice. Purpose is the compass that prevents a life from drifting aimlessly across the calendar, and each morning offers a chance to recalibrate that compass before external forces begin to tug it off course. Waking up and deliberately revisiting the reason behind today's endeavors is like sharpening an axe before swinging at the first log. The wood may still be tough, but the edge will bite cleaner and deeper. Clarity of motive streamlines decision making, filters distractions, and transforms routine tasks from chores into stepping stones towards something meaningful. Without that clarity, to-do lists morph into burdensome chains. With it, the same lists become blueprints for progress. The difference lies not in the actions themselves, but in the context that surrounds them, context supplied by a well-defined why. Human psychology is wired to conserve energy, and when motives are vague, the mind readily defaults to comfort and familiarity. A foggy objective makes the extra email feel unnecessary, the workout negotiable, the difficult conversation postponable. Conversely, when intention is vivid, the brain tags related tasks as high priority and allocates dopamine accordingly, rewarding follow-through with a sense of satisfaction rather than fatigue. Neurologically, a specific purpose lights up the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for planning and impulse control, enabling focus to override the lure of immediate gratification. This isn't mere self-help rhetoric. It is the biology of motivation in action. Crafting a compelling reason does not require epic narratives or grandiose missions. Sometimes the spark is humble, providing stability for family, mastering a craft, honoring a promise to a younger version of oneself. What matters is that it resonates personally, generating an emotional undertow strong enough to pull resistance aside. Abstract ideals borrowed from others rarely suffice. Authenticity is the accelerant. A purpose genuinely internalized evokes a visceral response, a quickening heartbeat, a surge of warmth in the chest, signaling alignment between values and intentions. That emotional signature becomes a mnemonic device. Revisiting it each dawn reignites the association. reinforcing neural pathways that link action with meaning. Ritualizing the reconnection to purpose amplifies its effect. Writing a single sentence in a journal, speaking a concise mantra aloud, or visualizing the desired future for 60 seconds may seem trivial, yet repetition weaves these gestures into habit loops. Over time, the act of revisiting why becomes as automatic as brushing teeth, but with far greater strategic impact. The quiet moment of reflection serves as a pre-commitment, a psychological contract signed before the day's negotiations begin. Having pledged allegiance to a larger aim, one approaches subsequent choices through the lens of alignment. Does this help or hinder the mission? The binary question simplifies complexity, shortening internal debates and liberating cognitive bandwidth for creative problem solving. Clarity of purpose also inoculates against the demoralizing effects of setbacks. When obstacles surface, as they inevitably do, someone grounded in their why interprets difficulty as tuition in the curriculum of growth rather than as a verdict of inadequacy. The challenge becomes data, feedback to refine strategy, not evidence to abandon ambition. This resilience is not stoic detachment. It is sustained enthusiasm rooted in meaning. Knowing precisely why the journey matters cushions the ego when results lag behind effort, preserving momentum while tactics evolve. Furthermore, a well-articulated motive acts as a homing beacon in the noisy marketplace of other people's priorities. Modern life bombards attention with requests. Reply all, swipe now, click here. Each notification competes to rewrite the day's agenda, but a strong internal signal drowns them out. It becomes easier to decline invitations that dilute focus, to delegate tasks misaligned with core objectives, and to reserve prime energy for endeavors that advance the chosen narrative. Time management in this context is less about squeezing tasks into a calendar and more about defending the integrity of purpose against encroachment. The social dimension of purpose adds another layer of reinforcement. Articulating one's why to trusted allies invites accountability and support. Partners, friends, or teammates who understand the motive can mirror enthusiasm, offer perspective when doubt flickers, and celebrate milestones that outsiders might overlook. Yet external affirmation should remain supplementary. The main engine must stay internal to prevent motivation from collapsing when applause fades. Sharing purpose amplifies commitment, but should never substitute for it. Ultimately, anchoring to purpose each morning is an act of self-respect. It acknowledges that hours once spent cannot be reclaimed and therefore deserve to be invested with intention rather than squandered by inertia. The sunrise reminder becomes a daily recommitment ceremony, a vow renewed in solitude before engaging with the wider world. And as days accumulate, the consistent drive born of clarity leaves tangible traces, skills honed, relationships deepened, visions materialized. People observing from the outside may label the trait discipline, ambition, or even luck, but beneath those descriptors lies a simple practice repeated at dawn, asking, feeling, and affirming, "This is why I move." Every sunrise offers a fresh canvas, and priming that canvas with deliberate movement, learning, and spoken intention transforms ordinary hours into a masterpiece of productivity. Begin by waking the body through motion, because physiology precedes psychology. Circulation quickens, oxygen floods tissues, and hormones align toward alertness. Whether it is a series of stretches, a brisk walk around the block, or a short burst of calisthenics, physical activity flips the biological switches that govern mood, focus, and energy. Muscles contract, joints loosen, and the nervous system shifts from sluggish to responsive, establishing a physical baseline that whispers, "Yes, we are ready." This kinetic spark is not about sculpting an athlete's physique at dawn. It is about signaling every cell, that the day's challenges are opportunities to be met with vigor rather than reluctance. With the body humming, attention naturally seeks the next elevation of readiness, the mind. Feeding it purposeful input directly after movement leverages the heightened neurochemical state. Synapses fire more rapidly, memory consolidation sharpens, and curiosity awakens. Choosing a concise article, a few pages of a book, a podcast snippet, or a deliberate reflection exercise accomplishes two objectives: expanding knowledge and reaffirming that growth is a daily practice. The content does not need to be lengthy. Depth trumps duration. 5 mindful minutes spent dissecting a new concept or revisiting a core principle can unlock creative insights that ripple through subsequent tasks. Learning at this stage is less about immediate utility and more about cultivating a habit of intellectual exploration. Over weeks, the cumulative effect is a versatile mental toolkit, ideas, frameworks, anecdote, ready for deployment in meetings, conversations, and problem-solving sessions. The final component of the trifecta is the voice, an instrument capable of transforming abstract intentions into commitments with weight. Speaking goals aloud serves multiple psychological functions. Auditory reinforcement embeds them deeper into memory, while the act of articulation converts vague hopes into measurable targets. Vocalizing also invokes a subtle social contract, even in solitude. Words leave the mind and occupy space, making it harder to retreat into silent excuses. Tone matters. Assertive, upbeat delivery convinces the subconscious that the objectives are attainable. Phrases should be concise, present, tense, and specific statements like "I deliver the project outline by noon," or "I finish a 30-minute workout after work." This linguistic precision reduces decision fatigue later, replacing wavering internal dialogue with predetermined directives. Engaging body, mind, and voice in succession is more than a checklist. It is a sequence that builds momentum through compounding effects. Physical activation elevates neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, creating fertile ground for focused learning. The influx of new information then informs the goals spoken aloud, ensuring they are relevant and inspired rather than rote. In turn, vocal commitment reinforces the likelihood of continued physical energy and mental engagement throughout the day, completing a virtuous loop. Skipping any component diminishes the synergy. Moving without learning can yield raw energy-lacking direction. Learning without embodiment may result in intellectual overthinking untempered by action. Speaking intentions without prior physiological and cognitive priming risks hollow declaration. Unbacked by readiness, the trifecta also cultivates resilience. Days rarely unfold exactly as planned, but a body already energized, a mind freshly stimulated, and a voice anchored to clear objectives withstand disruption better than a baseline of passivity. Unexpected obstacles become variables to navigate, not reasons to surrender. Confidence grows from the memory of the morning ritual, evidence that regardless of external chaos, internal resources were fortified. This self-efficacy spreads to others. Co-workers, family, and friends feel the steadiness and often calibrate their own energy in response. Influence, therefore, begins before any interaction, simply by radiating preparedness. Sustainability hinges on adaptation rather than rigidity. Some mornings may allow a 40-minute run followed by deep study and an elaborate affirmation routine. Others may demand a 5-minute stretch, a quick skim of keynotes, and a whispered intention en route to urgent obligations. What matters is preserving the essence. Move something, learn something, say something purposeful. Consistency in principle outweighs consistency in form, and honoring the ritual even in abbreviated fashion keeps neural pathways reinforced. Over time, the practice becomes identity. One sees oneself as someone who moves, learns, and declares, regardless of circumstance. Tracking progress can amplify commitment. A modest journal entry noting the physical activity performed, the key insight gained, and the goals spoken provides tangible proof of adherence. Reviewing these logs at week's end reveals patterns, which movements yield the most sustained vigor, which learning sources spark innovation, which phrasing of goals drives tangible outcomes. Data replaces guesswork, allowing refinement of the trifecta for maximum personal impact. Ultimately, activating the body, mind, and voice each morning establishes an internal coalition aligned toward peak performance. The body supplies dynamic energy, the mind contributes sharpened strategy, and the voice seals the pact with audible resolve. Together, they convert the abstract potential of dawn into concrete momentum, ensuring that when opportunity knocks or adversity challenges, a prepared self answers with conviction and capability. Challenges announce themselves like unexpected weights dropped onto the floor of life's gym, startling in their heft and shape. The instinctive reaction is often avoidance, skirting the heavy iron, hoping someone else will haul it away. Yet avoiding strain steals the very adaptations those weights promise. Obstacles, when treated as custom, tailored training equipment, convert stress into strength. Much like resistance in a physical workout tears muscle fibers, so they can rebuild thicker and more resilient. Embracing a try-me mindset means stepping up to the bar, gripping it firmly, and allowing its resistance to clarify hidden capacities. The first transformation occurs in perception. A problem framed as punishment saps willpower. The same problem reframed as practice ignites curiosity. Consider a project deadline moved forward unexpectedly. The default story might read, "This is unfair. I'll never finish." Shift the narrative to, "Here is a chance to test efficiency strategies and discover untapped speed." Nothing external changes, yet the internal climate warms to possibility. Cognitive psychologists call this reappraisal, altering emotional response by altering interpretation. Athletes instinctively do it when they view lactic burn not as pain but proof of progress. Daily life offers analogous burns, tight budgets, technical glitches, critical feedback, all capable of signaling growth instead of defeat. Physical metaphors help ground the concept. In weightlifting, progressive overload is essential. Lifting the same mass forever plateaus gains. Similarly, tackling only familiar tasks breeds stagnation. The brain's neural networks mirror muscles. Stimulated by novelty and challenge, they sprout new connections, enhance plasticity, and refine problem-solving speed. Each obstacle, therefore, doubles as neurological gym equipment, calibrated in difficulty by reality itself. Encountering a furious client sharpens emotional regulation. Wrestling with intricate code strengthens logical reasoning. Navigating cultural misunderstandings builds empathy and communication agility. Every repetition under resistance encodes skills that remain long after the immediate trial ends. Adopting "try me" does not erase discomfort, it reorients it. A marathon runner still feels fatigue, yet interprets it as data. Pace needs adjustment. Hydration deficit requires correction. Likewise, when unexpected costs threaten a project's viability, frustration is natural but can be translated into actionable insight. Analyze spending patterns, negotiate better terms, cultivate resourcefulness. This interpretive alchemy converts passive suffering into active learning, sustaining momentum where stagnation might otherwise settle. Practical techniques reinforce the mindset. One method is stress journal. In writing 3 columns titled *obstacle*, *training benefit*, and *next rep*. Under *obstacle*, describe the current challenge concisely. Under *training benefit*, identify the specific capability being exercised. Patience, strategic thinking, or resilience. Under asterisk next rep asterisk, list the immediate action that constitutes the next lift. For example, if the obstacle is a marketing campaign's poor performance, the benefit column might read skill, data-driven iteration, and the next rep could be a /B test, new headlines by end of day. The process reframes adversity into a structured workout plan, transforming overwhelm into manageable sets and reps. Language matters too, swapping "Why is this happening to me?" for "What is this preparing me for?" cues the brain to search for constructive answers. The phrasing nudges attention toward future arenas where newfound strength will pay dividends: an upcoming leadership role, a larger client portfolio, or a personal endeavor requiring grit. Visualizing such future application turns current strain into an investment, not a toll. Community amplifies gains. In gyms, spotters provide safety and encouragement. In life, mentors, colleagues, and friends can play a similar role. Voicing the "try me" perspective aloud invites supportive feedback and sometimes reveals blind spots in technique. A mentor might suggest an alternate grip, delegation tactics, conflict resolution frameworks, or mindfulness exercises that allows heavier lifts without injury. Collaboration does not dilute the challenge, it diversifies the training stimulus. Nevertheless, pacing remains crucial. Overtraining in athletics causes injury. Overexposure to relentless stress courts burnout. The art lies in incremental loading, pushing beyond comfort yet allowing recovery. After an intense stretch of crunch time at work, deliberate rest is not laziness but integration, the phase when mental muscles rebuild stronger. Rest can mean a weekend digital detox, creative hobbies, or simply adequate sleep, all of which consolidate the lessons embedded in hardship. Tracking progress transforms abstract growth into visible evidence. Keep a running log of obstacles faced, solutions attempted, and competencies gained. Review it monthly to notice patterns, negotiation skills sharpened through repeated supplier disputes, adaptability enhanced by multiple role changes, composure fortified by public speaking engagements under pressure. The catalog becomes a personal strength database, proof that resistance was indeed training. On difficult mornings, flipping through past entries reminds the mind that many previous weights once seemed immovable, yet now belong to the warm-up rack. Over time, the "try me" stance evolves from a deliberate cognitive tool into reflex. Challenges still arise, sometimes heavier, sometimes awkwardly shaped, but hesitation shortens. The internal voice says, almost with a smile, "Let's see what this one can teach." Even failure assumes a new identity, akin to a missed lift that imparts feedback on technique and readiness. The real loss would be refusing to approach the bar at all. Ultimately, viewing obstacles as workout equipment does more than build individual capacity. It alters one's presence in the world. Confidence emanates not from an absence of hardship, but from intimate familiarity with it, proof that strain is survivable and even desirable when met constructively. Such confidence inspires teams, reassures clients, and guides loved ones through their own trials. The ripple effect is a culture where adversity is neither worshipped nor feared, merely recognized as the trainer it has always been. Energy is the invisible currency that determines how much creativity, patience, and determination can be spent in any given day. Yet it often leaks unnoticed through 1,000 pinholes. Guarding that currency begins with recognizing that attention is its primary conduit. Wherever focus goes, energy follows. The modern world is engineered to hijack that focus notifications chime with algorithmic precision. Open, plan offices buzz with half-over. Heard conversations and social feeds scroll on endless autoplay. Without intentional boundaries, these micro, Distractions accumulate into macro fatigue. Protecting energy therefore starts with designing friction. Disabling non-essential alerts, batching email checks, wearing noise, canceling headphones, or carving out a physical nook where interruptions are socially discouraged. Such measures reclaim cognitive territory, allowing deep work to flourish and preventing the mental exhaustion that arises from perpetual context switching. The second frontier is the company kept, because emotions are contagious and attitudes are viral. Spending extended time with chronic complainers or cynics is akin to sitting beside a smoker. Even if one does not inhale directly, second-hand negativity clings to mood and perspective. Conversely, proximity to solution, seekers, optimists, and growth-minded peers elevates baseline enthusiasm. Curating this social circle does not imply severing every draining relationship. Rather, it involves calibrating exposure. Setting time limits on conversations that spiral into gossip, redirecting topics toward constructive ground, and deliberately scheduling check-ins with mentors, collaborators, and friends who spark inspiration all constitute acts of energy stewardship. Over weeks, the aggregate emotional diet influences not only motivation, but also immune function and stress resilience, grounding the practice in both psychology and physiology. Environmental design further reinforces protection. Physical spaces send subtle cues. Cluttered desks nudge the mind toward scattered thought. Harsh fluorescent lighting saps comfort. Stale air diminishes alertness. Simple interventions, removing visual clutter, introducing plants for a splash of calming green, adjusting chair height and monitor alignment, opening a window, create surroundings that nourish rather than deplete. Temperature matters too. Even a few degrees of discomfort degrades concentration. So fine, tuning climate control or keeping a sweater within reach preserves mental acuity. Ambient sound can either distract or anchor focus. Instrumental playlists, white noise machines, or the gentle hum of a fan can mask disruptive noises and foster a friendly soundscape. Digital environments warrant equal scrutiny. An overcrowded desktop, an inbox stuffed with unread newsletters, or a phone home screen littered with unused apps burdens cognitive load. Regularly pruning digital clutter, unsubscribing from content no longer aligned with current goals, and arranging essential tools into intuitive folders creates a virtual workspace that mirrors the calm and clarity of a tidy room. Browser extensions that block time. Sucking sites during work blocks shield against impulsive detours. The aim is not aesthetic deprivation, but deliberate choice. Technology used as a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Nutrition and movement policies function as internal environment controls. Sugary snacks offer a fleeting spike followed by a crash that drags productivity and mood. Replacing them with slow-release fuel, nuts, fruit, lean proteins, maintains steady glucose levels and therefore stable attention. Hydration is equally critical. Even mild dehydration blunts cognition, so a water bottle kept within arm's reach acts as a silent ally. Short movement breaks every hour, whether stretching, walking a hallway, or doing a handful of squats. Reset posture, stimulate circulation, and refresh neurotransmitter balance. These rituals transform the body from passive seat to active collaborator in energy preservation. Mental hygiene practices act as circuit breakers for accumulated stress. Mindful breathing, 5-minute meditation sessions, or quick journaling dumps of racing thoughts clear mental REM. Some prefer a gratitude list, others find creative doodling cathartic. The technique matters less than the principle. Routinely emptying emotional and cognitive residue before it reaches overflow. Evening wind down rituals, dimming lights, reading printed pages rather than screens, jotting next day priorities, signal the brain to shift from high, alert beta waves into restorative modes, ensuring that sleep's quality matches its quantity. Good sleep, in turn, is the ultimate energy reboot. No productivity hack compensates for chronic depletion of REM and deep wave cycles. Boundaries around commitments protect energy at the macro level. Saying yes reflexively to every project or invitation is like opening the drain valve on a full reservoir. The discipline of selective commitment involves assessing alignment with long-term goals, potential for joy, and current capacity before agreeing. A polite but firm "let me check my priorities and get back to you" creates space for evaluation, reducing impulse acquiescence. When obligations are already overloaded, renegotiating deadlines or delegating tasks prevents burnout. This is not avoidance but strategic allocation, ensuring that finite resources are invested where returns, whether financial, relational, or experiential, justify expenditure. Recovery practices round out the defense. Weekends without work emails, vacations where devices are parked in airplane mode, and hobbies pursued purely for pleasure replenish the emotional bank account. Novelty, trying a new recipe, exploring a trail, learning a chord progression, stimulates dopamine pathways distinct from work-related achievements, refreshing motivation for Monday's challenges. Social play, laughter, and shared meals activate oxytocin circuits that buffer cortisol and enhance resilience. In a culture that glorifies hustle, intentional downtime becomes an act of quiet rebellion and essential maintenance. Ultimately, protecting energy is a mosaic of small choices, each seemingly minor in isolation, yet powerfully compounding. Like diligent investors guarding capital, energy stewards scrutinize every expenditure, reject hidden fees of distraction and toxicity, and diversify recovery strategies for sustainable growth. Over time, the payoff is visible in sharper focus, steadier mood, and a creative reservoir deep enough to withstand the inevitable storms of demanding days. By treating attention and vitality as assets worth guarding relentlessly, life's returns accrue not merely in output, but in the richness of experience itself. Completion is the quiet engine of credibility, a force that converts intention into evidence and potential into proof. Each time a task is carried across the finish line, an invisible tally mark is etched into the ledger of self-trust, signaling that promises made will not evaporate when convenience wanes or novelty fades. Conversely, half-finished undertakings accumulate like mental clutter, weighing on attention with whispering reminders of unkept vows. The brain tracks these open loops, even vague ones, consuming cognitive resources through what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. Our minds stay partially preoccupied with incomplete actions. Closing those loops frees processing power, much like shutting unused browser tabs speeds up a computer. It also restores an uncluttered sense of presence, enabling full engagement with the next priority instead of constantly glancing back at unfinished business. Follow-through is rarely glamorous. It often unfolds during the final stretch when enthusiasm has thinned and only grit remains. In these moments, momentum can sputter under the friction of unforeseen complications or sheer monotony. Yet pressing on editing that last paragraph, reconciling the final spreadsheet column, making the hard phone call trance, forms groundwork into a deliverable outcome. Progress then leaps from almost to done. A leap disproportionate to the remaining effort because the value of a task realized is exponentially higher than one nearly complete. A proposal submitted unlocks opportunities. A proposal 5% drafted resides in limbo, incapable of winning contracts or influencing strategy. Finishing tasks compounds benefits across domains. Professionally, reliable closure builds a reputation more formidable than raw talent because organizations run on dependable output. Colleagues learn to trust that delegated items will return complete. Bosses notice that deadlines are honored, and clients experience punctual delivery. Each satisfied expectation acts like a referral in behavior, advocating silently for future responsibilities and promotions. Personally, consistent completion fosters momentum for habits, fitness routines, study schedules, or creative projects, where cumulative gains hinge on showing up day after day until mastery manifests. Strategic planning prevents projects from stalling short of completion. Breaking large goals into granular milestones transforms an intimidating mountain into a series of manageable footholds, allowing progress to be measured and celebrated incrementally. Clear criteria for done also matter. Ambiguity breeds procrastination as the mind chases elusive perfection. Declaring in advance that the report is finished when it meets specified length, date to accuracy, and formatting standards clarifies the path to closure and curbs endless tinkering. Time-boxing tasks, allocating a fixed duration rather than an open-ended slot, further discourages drift by imposing a decisive boundary. Psychological tools reinforce follow-through when willpower wanes. Visualizing the completed state and its associated rewards lights up the brain's reward circuitry, generating dopamine that fuels effort during tedious phases. Public accountability, sharing deadlines with teammates or mentors, adds social pressure that tempers the lure of postponement. Conversely, identifying the cost of incompletion, such as lost credibility or stalled comp projects, leverages loss aversion to drive action. The environment can be primed too, reorganizing a workspace so that unfinished items remain visible and intrusive until resolved nudges attention back to closure. Some keep a done jar, depositing notes of finished tasks to provide a tangible accumulation of accomplishment and motivate further completions. However, finishing is not synonymous with perfectionism. The pursuit of immaculate outcomes can paradoxically sabotage closure, trapping projects in perpetual revision loops. The guiding principle is optimality under context. Aim for excellence within the time, resources, and impact scope allotted, distinguishing between critical refinements and diminishing. Return tweaks preserves momentum while safeguarding quality. Iterative processes provide a compromise, ship version 1, gather feedback, and improve, but only if version 1 genuinely ships. Iterations count only when they reach end users or stakeholders, otherwise they remain theoretical. Energy management underpins the capacity to finish. Starting work at peak freshness, often early in the day on tasks that demand the most cognitive effort, increases odds of completion before fatigue erodes diligence. Midday slumps can be countered with brief movement, hydration, or mindful breathing, meager investments that restore bandwidth for final pushes. Recognizing personal ultradian rhythms, those 90-minute cycles of heightened and lowered alertness, allows scheduling of focused sprints followed by short restorative breaks, maintaining stamina across long projects. Celebration, even modest, cements the finishing habit by rewarding the neural pathways involved in closure. A 5-minute stretch, a cup of favorite tea, or jotting the completed task in a tracker releases a micro dose of satisfaction, teaching the brain that diligence pays off. Over time, these positive associations make returning to the effort easier when new tasks approach their own final yards. Finally, a daily review ritual safeguards the loop, closing discipline. Before ending work, scan outstanding commitments, tick off completed ones, and identify the critical few that must move tomorrow. This moment of reflection serves two purposes: reinforcing the satisfaction of what was wrapped up and ensuring no lingering obligations slip into neglect. It also preserves a boundary between professional and personal hours. Knowing that loose ends are documented for future attention permits genuine presence in rest and relationships. Ultimately, power resides in the reliable transformation of intention into delivery. The discipline to finish what is started strengthens self-trust, underpins external trust, and clears mental space for fresh creation. Each concluded commitment is a brick